Good morning, everyone. Hope you all well. Happy early Sunday. It's a little early this week. I didn't want to cancel, so I've given you a little bit of a taste of how early I tend to get up. So, early morning practice is a powerful time. There's something very special about the 5 a.m. hour in actually many traditions. And it's very still, and the energies are very still. During the day, there's a lot of movement with us, animals, wind, solar energy. It has a certain vibration. And at night, it gets cooler, especially during the fall and winter and early spring. And the moon is out and the stars are out, and the humans go to sleep, as do the animals for the most part. And things become very quiet. Energies calm down. And at 5 a.m., we really have the benefits of all of that because everything has quieted down. Everything has become still. In our homes, we've been asleep. Temperature goes down. The kids haven't been yelling. And so when we go to pray, practice, or meditate at that time, and we open up to our space and feel the energy in our rooms, in us, after we've slept, our minds have calmed down. We've forgotten a little bit about the day before, if it was a little hectic. And we're stiller. We wake up fresh. Our room is fresh and still. The outside is fresh and still. Especially if you open the window a little bit, you can really feel that energy. In fact, I'm going to open the window a little bit. And if you open the blinds, which I'm going to do here, so it's still dark. And you can hear a very sort of cool air slightly blowing through canyons, and you can feel the slight vibrational sound. This is very healing for our brains and our minds and the turbulent energy in our body, in our tree. So when we light our candle and offer up the incense to Adonai, to Hashem, to Yahweh, to Elohim, to Emmanuel, to Abba. So many names for the one God. We connect with that, and it's deeply, deeply healing. The winter time, as we are now entering it, is a powerful time to heal. If we use this time, which is a slower paced time than the summer, time a little bit more of hibernation, especially on the East Coast where it gets very, very cold in the Northeast. If we use this time to go within, to take advantage of the seasons, which many traditions do. And this is a time of deepening, of sowing seeds, clearing out the weeds, improving circulations of energies, and improving our bodies. So when we re-emerge in the spring, we're stronger, we're better, we're healthier, we grow faster. In fact, a lot of spiritual progress is done, religious progress is done, during the intensity of a more focused practice. It's really a time of rejuvenation. And so that's what we're going to be doing. Because I've been teaching a lot, saying a lot, and I love teaching, but there's a danger in that. And sometimes I'm a little like, oh my God, I taught too much, too long. Because it can't just be about thoughts and words and ideas and concepts. They have to be applied. You have to walk the road. You have to do it. We need religious intensity, religious fervor, yes, that's it. We need religious fervor to grow. So this morning, we're just gonna, we're just gonna practice together. We're gonna pray together. But each of us is gonna do it in their own way. I'm not even going to play the Shema. Hopefully you have the recording yourselves. It's on my website. It can be downloaded from my website. It's on YouTube, on the channel, my channel, and it could also be downloaded from that channel. And because for each of us, we need different components on a different day. The Shema keys it up a certain way, but you can also just light the shrine and sort of sit there with more of a meditative approach, which is described really well in last year's meditative intensive, last winter's, or in the core teachings, and I'll teach it again, of course. So more of a meditative, working with the body and the alignment, and then, transitioning maybe to the recitation of the name of God, or just working on your presence and your alignment and working with your emotions, which I'll give more teachings on that as well. I don't think I've really given the teachings yet on working with emotions and meditation, because it's a little more intermediate, and it takes a little while to have the stability to be able to work with that. So I hope people have been doing their practice, because it grows. It grows, and as we move to different ways of working with the same energies, ways that can be more effective even than the ones I've taught, one has to have that initial stability of the preliminary practices, of the more basics, because they kind of build on each other. Because like working with emotions in meditation, a more intermediate practice, like beginner intermediate practice, sort of like intermediate, but like the first level of intermediate. requires that you have some stability, otherwise you can't do it. So when we work here and just do more of a meditative practice, you're working on that stability, on staying present. Right? When you put your intention on your shrine, that's an anchor. When you look at the candle, that can be an anchor for stability, right? If you view it as the Shekinah glory of Elohim, then it becomes a divine anchor. If you work on the emanation of the energy from that, then that brings energy into you, which can be deeply healing. So you're working with an anchor and a blessing, and working with the energy of your body because you're bringing in a healing, the divine energy of God. And if you bring in prayer, now you're bringing in all sorts of elements. And you could also bring in the name of God. So many tools we have now in our little toolkit, don't we? And so how do you apply them? Well, ultimately, only you can know that. What do you need for that day? Where do you feel called to apply yourself? Are there techniques that you feel interested in, which I've taught, which you haven't tried yet and you wish to deepen in? Or have you found a technique that just feels so perfect right now, just what you need? And I hope everybody has found that technique now. That's why I give so many techniques that people can find what's just like, oh my God, where have you been all my life sort of technique. And if you found that and a name of God to go with it, if that's part of that, then that's where you should be. And that's where you should be deepening, because they all lead to the same thing. One's not necessarily better than the other. There's not one technique that's necessarily better because, let's say, it's more advanced. The best technique is the one that you feel called to do where you're at, the one for that moment. Look, I know some very advanced things, but if I'm not there because my mental state isn't there, my energetic state isn't there, I sometimes go to the most basic techniques. But the basic techniques are also extremely advanced and profound in their own way. And the best technique is the one that's needed for where you are that moment. So there's a great intelligence there. And ultimately, even if you have a teacher face to face who knows you, ultimately they'll all tell you you could only be your own guide at a certain stage. Because only you know what you need, and only you know what you need in that moment. So we develop the skills so we're proficient. We discover the techniques. So we have these techniques in our sort of religious, spiritual toolbox, which we can take out and use. Sometimes we feel called to greater devotion. Sometimes we feel called to tears and pleading to God. And that's legit. That's legitimate. Sometimes we feel to work more on more meditative practices, to still our minds and our energy and allow energies to move through our tree of energy spheres in our mind and the energetic pathways in our body. That is a form of prayer. Yes, right. Why is that? And I'm not going to launch into a teaching. I'm really going to try to hold back here today. Because when we do a practice to try to heal our body, right, we are realigning the currents back to factory setting. So if we have the intent to align back to our perfection, which is the divine flow, right? Down the Sephirotes, yes? So there's the Ein Sof at the very top. So we align the energy going down and up. So by meditating, we are bringing the healing and therefore the wisdom of Adonai through the Sephirotes where it might be blocked. Yes? And if you're new to the channel, just look at the teachings on the Tree of Life that I've done over the last month, 2 months. And so with a technique to align to God, that is a form of prayer. Because it's a technique to get into connection and better alignment with our purer selves, to purify ourselves, to do better actions in the world, to walk the path and increase our vibration. And with practice in that, it leads us to have more effective channeling and working with the mantras of God, using the names of God in recitation. A couple names, relaxation, couple names more, or a couple recitations more, a couple recitations, and then 30 minutes of just being in that presence. The recitation just bring you in that alignment, and then you have developed the capacity to remain in that presence of God for the remaining of the time. Or you just sit down and you're in the presence of God instantly because of your intent, and you feel it. You feel that energy, that sort of radiance like a candle, and your hand being just a couple inches away, you feel that warmth, right? You feel that there's a more heavy, warm energy there. Well, you can feel that with God with time. When you're in that alignment, you feel you're in that current. And so we practiced to be able to do that. One could also recite the names for a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. Just slowly, right? So I practice Yahweh. So you just say, So give an example. It's different speeds, right? So there's great blessings in a name. When Yahweh connects with me, but it's also the name of God in the Old Testament. So there's great, great blessings in that name. It's one reason I recite it. I always recite all the names very respectfully, but this one particularly. Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. And then you could recite it internally without your voice. And in many ways, mantras recited internally are actually the most powerful ones, interestingly enough. But at the beginning, reciting it externally helps develop the capacity to feel the energy internally when you recite it silently within you. And it's not just the mind, it's sort of recited When I recite internally, I feel the energy at my heart slightly above and around the throat chakra, which actually makes sense. So it's not just a mind thing. It helps to just move the lips slightly or say it softly under your breath, which I think is the more intermediate level of reciting. And then eventually you could just do it with a thought. I don't recite anymore continuously. It's not necessary, and it troubles my energy. Just a couple times is enough. But when I was starting, like you saw what I did, I couldn't really do more than that. But when you're starting, you don't feel as much for most people. I'm speaking generally. So it is helpful to recite for extended periods of time, if it feels good to you, because there's a lot of things that the energy needs to move through, to clear and to heal, and you might not be as sensitive or receptive. But you need to be careful. You can't allow the energy to build up that you literally feel shaky from the power of the name. So you do a little bit, you feel it, you let it sit and settle. You try to feel it go through your whole body, and you relax in it. That absorbs the energy into the body. It's not just reciting, there's also that absorption of the current of the blessing that you've incited. So you put it in, and you just let it kind of soak into the bones, the muscles, your mind, your karma, your mitzvah, energy, everything. And then when you feel it's time, you recite again. Or there's periods where you recite continuously. I've done recitations of mantras and things for thousands and thousands and thousands of times. And sometimes many, many times in one sitting, but you have to watch that you don't become too amped up. And if you have a tendency of being manic or stuff, you need to watch it, particularly. And these practices don't replace the taking of medicine. I've been around a lot of people who think, I can do this and it replaces my medicine. Please, please, please don't do that. Okay? In fact, the medicine will provide the stability where it's safer for you to do these practices. And if you feel, this is for anyone, it feels a little much, then you take a break, take that sip of water that's next to you. Always have water next to you. It helps energy flow through the body. Always be comfortable, and it feels a little much. You take a breath or two, you let it absorb, and you're like, you know what, that's enough for today. More is not better. More time on the cushion, praying, pushing through is not necessarily good. You burn out. It becomes too much, too intense, and you burn out. And then you might not do it for a couple months, or you might stop doing it altogether. So you work up to it. And you do what feels good, and you know when to push a little bit longer because there's a wall there and you want to get to the other side. Or you're like, you know what, 10 minutes really should be 25 or 30. Or, H.P. Shalom says, there's a magic thing that happens around the 40-minute mark. I want to experience what that is. And there is a wall somewhere between 14 and 20 minutes. For me, it's around the 16, 17 mark. But once you're on the other side, you feel a release and you're like, whew. And then it's kind of easy to continue. But you go up slowly, extra 5 minutes, extra 10 minutes. And this works with prayer time too. You sit in front of your prayer space and you're like, after 7 minutes, you can't take it anymore. Well, why can't we sit still? It's not normal that we can't sit still. And so we grow. And by spending that time, we start clearing. We start realigning. We get insights and wisdom. We break through. And we find a more better, perfect alignment with God. So today, now that I have set sort of the stage on the basic framework on how to go about doing this for your practice during this period, we're going to practice together and pray. And so we're going to start, but you're all going to do your own practice for the length of time you want to do it. You could start with the Shema or not. You could start with the name of God or not. You could just sit there and look at your shrine for a while, then say a name of God or not. Or you could just go into normal prayer, deal more with what's on your mind or not. Deal with emotions and pain and speak to God about that or not. You get the idea? There's a lot of options and they're all fine. You do what you need to do for that day, what you feel you need. It's all about developing the relationship. The fact that you're sitting in front of your altar, you lit the light, put up the incense, if you put up incense, and you're there, and you're present, and you're in that space, then it counts. Try to remain present in the space, and then that's it. You've done that. And then what you do during that period is up to you. I suggest you work on taking your car down the spiritual road. It's not just clocking in the time, though the time is being clocked because you're there, so you are putting in the time, but are you walking, driving down the road? Are you really making, constructive and engaged in one way? And even just meditating is being engaged. And then you could put in the Shema towards the middle when you're calm, or not at all. You could play a song at the end, or not at all. Many different options that I've taught, different techniques. What we will do together is the breathing exercise. We're going to work with the breath. I'm going to teach many techniques with the breath this sort of fall, winter. By the spring, you'll know a very, very good, powerful technique. But we are going to work up to it. So please do the breathing techniques as I teach them and practice during the week. It'll make the last one much more effective, and it will be much safer when we've sort of built up to it. And you'll have an understanding of the breath and the energy currents in the body and how the channels and the breath and your emotions and your mind and your alignment all work together. So, let's move to our prayer space. I have spoken enough. Sun's coming up. Perfect timing. You could also do this in front of a window. There's so many ways. I once had a prayer space that was right below a sort of low window. And there was a view. And, that's very healing. All of this is to heal us. It's all meant to create a change and to heal. As we heal and as religious, spiritual people, and a love of God or wishing to connect, we just sort of naturally align with Him. And we go lightly. Pushing too much, you have to make the effort, but you also have to understand when you push with too much will, that would actually also create a block, actually, and make it harder to sort of quote-unquote break through. So it's a middle level exertion. You're not gunning the pedal to the floor, but you're also not coasting. So you're putting an effort, you're moving through energetic resistance, right? That 15, 17 mark when you're meditating is a big energetic resistance. But the first couple times you make it through, and it might take a couple weeks before you can get past that 15, 17 mark, but I think maybe a week and a half. But once you start making it through, you start understanding your body and the energy and resistance. And it's the same with praying. We all could do 3 or 4 minutes. But you can pray, then just stay in the presence of your shrine and look at the sacred pictures and be in that presence. And then feel that energy in you and be in the presence of that energy. And that is a form of meditation, but with the religious aspect. And that really clears. And the whole thing is a prayer. And then when you go back to connecting more with more of a formal prayer, you'll feel much more powerful and connected. And during the day, you'll feel much more connected to the presence of God with time. Okay. Next week, we're just going to launch right into praying together, okay? So, for me, offering the candle, the incense up to God by holding it up above my head, sort of not the arms fully extended, and it's sort of held up in front of me, not directly above my head, but sort of in front of my face, but a little higher in respect, in my slightly bowed maybe. That for me really establishes an energetic connection. If you're able to feel that position and fine-tune it for you, you will, and your energy has become more aligned, then, especially if you stretch during the week and you work on loosening your body with baths and showers and steams and hot tubs and stuff and become more supple, you'll be able to feel that alignment energetically. Yeah, I feel different even after just speaking now, because I lifted up that incense in love and offering it up to God. That really connects with that Wi-Fi channel. All right, let's begin. So I'm thinking we'll go about 25 to 30 minutes, huh? So you compose it, make of it what you wish. We'll do the breathing exercise together. So right now I'm stretching out my legs. I'm a little stiff in the morning, so my legs are, we're going to work a little bit with stretching too. You guys are going to learn a lot this fall and winter. This is a new way of, next level of my teaching, sort of a new chapter. People who have been with me for a while have noticed there are sort of periods where certain teachings come through, and now we're in a sort of a new period of types of teachings. So if you have your legs out in front of you, and I can't touch my toes. I'm very flexible in certain ways, but other ways I just really can't. But I have my fingertips on my lower leg bones as far as I can go, and the stretch is really, for me, in the area of right above my knees, in the back, against the back muscles, and I just stretch. It's not about having a perfect stretch to be able to touch the toes or even beyond the toes. These people are really flexible. It amazes me. I'm not one of them. What the importance is you stretch wherever you can. If you could just get to the knees. You're older and there's not flexibility, or there's a physical impediment. It's just to give a little more of a stretch where you are. And if you're younger, or you are able to work with your body to get more and more flexible, that is part of the spiritual path. Because, to put it in Kabbalah terms, it increases the flow of energy between the sephirots. The problem is we're all congested. So we need that spiritual flow. And then I haven't fully brought it in with the Kundalini and the chakras yet. That's a teaching I want to give. I haven't had the ability, the time to put it together because there's just a lot going on. But you move that flow through the chakras. A lot of it is about smoothing it out. And it's all about the currents in our body. So by stretching and just adding a little more flexibility and see, now I'm going deeper, almost reaching the ankles. Well, that's good for me. But and then you go back, you feel a greater flow, yes? And you can do one leg over the other, like one tucked in. I'll work on putting little poses on the website. We'll have a little yoga portion. I'll build that, and I'll let you know when it's up. Moving forward and stretching in there. Okay. Sort of twisting your waist a little bit. So this really helps. I feel more aligned. You get into your meditation posture, and because I did this, and since I'm in a full lotus position, by stretching out my legs, I'm able to hold the position longer, and it feels like it flows better. And when you start praying in this way, you'll see your mind will be more still because there's less tension in the body. Therefore, any thoughts that come up will just naturally flow away, and you could focus more on your prayers. And the energy you create in the connection will penetrate into the body in deeper ways. So you see how it all works together. All right, so because you stretch, it'll be easier to work with the breath. So take a moment to still yourself. Still yourself. Oh, see, I'm just doing it already naturally. So here we go. So I'm going to do inhale from the nose. Hopefully I'm going to move up the gain on this microphone and you could hear what I'm doing. And you could hopefully tell the intensity, but you feel and do what you feel called to do. Okay, and I'll give some guidance along the way. All right, so it's nice and light. I might go a little more intensely, which I think is good because there'll be some more advanced people or intermediate and they could see how to do it. But if people are new, you might want to do more lightly. Feel what you're called, but you don't want to feel that you've created too much energy in your spinning. Yes? All right. So inhalation, sort of slowly over 5 seconds, and feel it fill up your lungs. You want to fill them up pretty full, but not to the point that you feel a lot of pressure in your lungs, but it's a full, complete filling of the lungs, and you could feel the freshness in the room because it's early morning and the rooms are a little cooler, right? All right, so through the nose. So inhale through the nose and exhale for 5 seconds through the nose, or it could be through the mouth. Whatever feels better for you right now. And if inhaling through the mouth feels better, then do that. It's very open right now, okay? We're starting, and this is new to people. So we'll just start. It could just be the mouth, okay? With time, we'll work with techniques that are only through the nose. But people need to start where they are and develop that technique. And hopefully you'll practice it a couple days a week. And eventually it'll all become through the nose. And I'll teach you why the nose is very important. But right now, it's just about having that deep, a full breath, but not to the point that you're overinflating your lungs, and a nice exhale, but you're not pushing it out completely. It's just an exhale. You know, you're going a little deeper exhale than normal. Right? This clears the prana, the chi, the energy out of the body a little bit. It takes care of that tension. All right, so we have the basic technique. Yes? So, all right, so let's do count of, how about 4 inhales? Inhale, exhale is 1 cycle. So let's do 4 cycles. 4 inhales, 4 exhales. Okay? before, just breathe normally. Try to breathe just through the nose if you can. I don't know if you noticed, after each exhale, you could leave a slight openness between breaths for like a second or so, or two, and relax your stomach, and you should feel a little more, like, for lack of a better word, of openness down there. And you could realign your lower spine and feel that there's a certain, it becomes more free. So we'll do that again. There's a more advanced technique that I just want to share to people who have not just begun these techniques but are more advanced. So if you just begun, it is important to work with the basics to grow. You don't hop to something that seems more cool or more advanced, because you don't build a proper foundation, and it will catch up with you, sadly. Okay? You have to build a house from the ground up. This is foundation. So work on your foundation. For those, it's sometimes the foundational work, it's more on technique and a little harder in a way, because you're really working with it. So it is hard when you begin, in a way. The upper techniques are actually much easier, but you don't really have success on the upper ones unless you have the proper foundation built. Otherwise you have a shaky house and it all falls down. Okay? For the people who are more advanced, when you inhale, you can say a name of God as you inhale. Like when I was inhaling, I thought Abba, and then I exhaled. So that's for people who have a foundation, okay? So, all right? But then the people who've begun now have the teaching of something a little more further along, that they could weave into their practice when they felt they've built a proper foundation. But right now, not so much. When I officially give that teaching, and you'll know when, probably in a couple months, then the people who've been practicing 3 or 4 times a week, or once or twice a week, then you'll have built enough of that stability to add that in. Yes? So, cycle of 4 again, please. You're inhaling maybe 4 or 5 seconds, and take a small little pause. Then you're exhaling for 4 or 5 seconds. Then you take a little pause, and then you inhale again. The pause should just be, a second, no more than 2. Just maybe even just a second. We're going light. This is light, okay? Nice and easy. I just launched into a meditation and prayer with the anchor being the breath. So that's going to be taught a little further along, okay? But there's a real calming way of working with the breath as part of the techniques with the names of God, which will be taught in the future. So we're working, feel your body. How do you feel different? Yeah? I feel so much better. All right, so let's work a little bit more with energy. So this is nice and light. Interestingly enough, the subtle breath, the light breath, the undercurrent of the energy under the breath, for people who are more advanced, called the subtle breath, working with that is actually in some ways more powerful than the external, the physical breath. And you don't do it intensely. There are intense breathing techniques, but that's to clear, to be able to work with a more subtle breathing. This we could quickly launch into a subtle breath. Okay? So we're going to work another 4. If people are feeling a little lightheaded, then stop right here. Or if you feel 2 is good, then it's 2. If you feel 1 is good, it's 1. I do 4 because people who are starting out, they might need to do cycles of 4 to really feel it. But it depends on your constitution, your body, your age, your level of athleticism, and your natural abilities. And if this is new to you, so you gauge for yourself. Okay? But it's just nice and slow. There's no rush to quickly attain something that actually will keep you, yes, okay? So just, let's nice and, okay? So I'm going to do 4 again. Actually, sorry. On this one, when you exhale, if you feel any dense energy, thickness, which is an energetic form of thoughts or tension or stress or unhappiness, they're linked to emotions or blockages or things that you want to come out. Pre-thought, this is all pre-thought. It's like the seeds of like a cloud that leads to something, and they can be visualized, but that's another time. You feel that fullness and you exhale it out. And you breathe in a fresh air, clear in. That's why it's sometimes important to open a window, because the room is cooler and fresh. So you feel in the freshness, and then you exhale the density. And that is a more advanced a little bit, kind of advanced beginner. And it's done very lightly, and that helps clear the energy more. So you inhale, and anything that feels dense or full or even looks cloudy or black, you sort of exhale. Don't look for color, but you may see it in your eyes. It's something, oh, this is, a thick cloud, a thick fog. If you see that, then that's fine. Don't try to see anything, and you just sort of exhale it out. Let's do this for 4. just leave it open. Mind open. Release the technique. Openness. Back to normal breathing. Just relax through the nose, through the mouth. Just let go of all the technique. Open space. No thoughts. Open. I have my eyes closed. Closed or open, whatever you feel. Now bring in your individual prayers. May they be blessed, and may Yahweh be with us all. So, I don't know, 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. So I'll bring us all back together when it's time. So just leave the sound on, and I wish you a beautiful time with God. So feel free to continue. I have to sign off now, but I would have loved to have continued for another 30 or 40 minutes. Feel free to contemplate things in your life that are coming up, but do so in a prayerful way. It's what you wish to make of it. It's a powerful place of openness and prayer and contemplation in God's presence. And if you have the opportunity today, since we started early, maybe you could make this into a day of reflection, prayer, contemplation, maybe spending a little time in nature or in a quiet place. Maybe you could arrange your day and change your schedule to make that space for yourself, to take that time out from our normal rhythm and society and plans, and make that time for yourself, to connect with yourself, the deeper parts of yourself. Understand yourself better. Work with that inner alignment where we walk hand in hand with God. May Yahweh bless you today and for the week to come, and your family and everything that you do. Thank you for joining me, and have a wonderful and blessed week. Until next week, bye-bye.